And what's going on, everyone? In this video we're going to talk about buying a car here in Western Australia. I'm going to share with you my experience on buying this Toyota Echo. We're going to talk types of sellers, pros and cons, benefits, plus much more. Can't wait to get into it. Here we go. And welcome back to the channel. If you're new and just joining, or what's happening, my name is Benjamin Harding. I'm a video creator and I put up videos on health, self-development and long-term travel. So if that's your kind of vibe, consider subscribing. To recap on my last episode, we were talking about travel mistakes and basically what could go wrong on your travels. When I created that video, it made me reflect again on my time here in Western Australia. When I arrived here in October 2022, got me thinking quite a lot. And one of the biggest mistakes that I've definitely made was not getting a car sooner. So let's give you a bit of context on that. So when I first arrived here, I was taking Ubers, I was taking trains, buses, I was even renting out electric bikes at one point. And that's all good to get around, etc. But it still left me limited with the ability to be independent and be more free with going to different locations. For example, like going more coastal, which is what I love, or going more regional to the places I've not been before. And not just that, but taking people with me or getting groups together to go and do trips. And those are the sort of things that I really love doing, and I've really appreciated and loved doing in the East Coast, and I want to replicate that over here. So not having a car and being able to do that has certainly presented me with a sort of problem that I want to sort and fix. And so that brings me on to the pros and cons of having a car. So let's start with the pros. The first one has got to be the freedom and independence. Then you've also got traveling to and from work conveniently, which is what I'm going to be 100% using mine for. You don't have to rely on others and their schedules, so you're more free to pick your day and structure your day as you wish. You have more accessibility to different areas. As I mentioned before, you can go more coastal, you can go more regional. You don't have to rely on the city routes of taking the buses and the Ubers that way. Again, you're able to pick up multiple friends and get a carpool, or meet up with other friends in their cars and all go out together and do beach visits together. And this can also be travel adventures that you want to involve yourself in. For example, camping trips, or doing barbecues by the coast, or even just getting an esky in a swag, or like a little bed or something in your car, which is what I did on the East Coast, and then just camping up somewhere. Like, that was so simple back then, but honestly one of like the best experiences, because it gave me so much joy and fulfillment. And then there's the cons, which in my opinion, I only came up with two, which is the maintenance of the vehicle. For example, the rego, the roadworthy. And then there's things like fuel, oil and other products that go into the car that make it function as well, which obviously is another cost. So this then leads us on to the question, what type of car do you want? Is that I want it to be super economical, super cheap on fuel, and super reliable. Like, I don't want to buy a car and invest a decent amount of money into it and then like drive it 200 meters down the road and it just conk out, or break down, or not start again, or just have some major failures with it. With one of my last cars, the Mitsubishi Challenger I had on the East Coast, it did have a lot of problems with it, and I had to literally drop easy $1,000 on it to fix it back up again in order for it to be drivable. But I didn't want that to happen again this time. I made it a key certainty that I would look into it and see if it was good to go and able to drive. Another big question I had to ask myself was, what sort of mileage / kilometers would you deem acceptable to buy it at? Here in Australia, obviously this country is massive, So driving around, a lot of the cars that I've seen on Marketplace and online and in person, they've got high kilometers. I'll be honest, the car that I bought, it has approximately about 256,000 kilometers. But with that being like an '05 model, '04 model, '04-05 model, and all the owners and how much it's done, I had to take that into consideration when buying it. But then also, you got to look at the reliability of the product and what it is. For example, like Toyota is known for its amazing efficiency and like the motors being having a long life. Another big thing with this is that if it's got really high mileage or really high kilometers, like, what does the service history say? Like, is there a logbook of all the different kilometers it's done? Has it been maintained properly through each service and through the kilometers, through the mileage? Because if it's been looked after well over that time period, then it's more likely to be more reliable for you as a car, as an asset, as a vessel to be able to take you all these places, whether it's to work or to travel adventures or to meet your mates, etc. And that was a big thing, as a big factor for me when searching for a car. So that brings me on to, what sort of budget do you have? I've been so focused on literally saving and saving to try and put as much money away as possible to save to get a Hilux. But I knew that if I were to buy like a small A to B convenient car, then it'd be cheaper and easier to run anyway. So for the budget for what I had, I was looking at anywhere between 3.5k Aussie dollar all the way up to 6k, sorry, give or take. You know what, I wasn't in a rush to buy anything. I was looking around at the market, I was looking around at other places. So then it became the question of, where do I find a reliable car? From methods that I've used in the past that have worked well for me, I looked at backpacker groups, I looked at Perth cars under X amount, I looked at Facebook Marketplace, I looked at Gumtree and car sales, all of these ones as well, just to get a good idea of how much they're going to cost, what sort of reliability they are in terms of star rating, and if they're going to be able to keep me going here even if they do have high kilometers on the clock. Like this time, I honestly took my time with it. I took months just constantly searching every night or before work on Marketplace, being like, okay, let's message this person, this one. I ended up messaging 10 people each time and just learning about the cars, being like, okay, what comes with it? Like, what sort of service history do you have any service history with it? Does it come with rego? Does it come with other different things like music players? Like, when did you last service it? These really important questions that are gonna really play a big part in what this car can be for you. On these websites, there were different types of sellers. So I was looking at private and I was also looking at dealerships. I've never bought a car from a dealership before, but I was open to the idea of it, just because you kind of got a bit of better idea of the fact that they've looked after it, because they need to service it in order to put it on the car lot, etc. And because they've tested the car and inspected it to their best ability, this will often mean that the prices in the car lot at the dealership will tend to be of a higher price, which obviously you pay more for that as well. Questions to ask the seller. These are ones that I've 100% asked both private and dealerships to find out about the car and its history. So the first one and the major one is, how much service history do you have for the car? For example, if the model, like the one that I've got, is like an '04 or '05 model, obviously it's going to be hard to find all of that service history. However, normally with cars, they come with a logbook and they are stamped with that sort of information, or even receipts are put into a folder of that car. In the previous times where I've lived in the UK and I've also lived here in Australia, I have normally kept some form of pamphlet or folder of some sort that has got all of the receipts, all of the history that I've collected from it, and I've put it in there nice and safe. As a question, I think this is super important, because then you get to see like how the car's been handled, what's been spent on it, what's been purchased for it, and it gives you a good idea of what the car's been through. Another helpful question would be, how long have you had it for? For example, for people that have had it for like 1 year, like you can kind of gauge like what the kilometers were like when they first bought it, and now what it is to now when they're selling it. I mean, did they use it for like a traveling car, like backpacking some of the East Coast or West Coast or whatever, or they just use it for an A to B car? Another really helpful question to ask, which is, why are you selling it? Do you want to upgrade to a new car because you've got the money for that now? Or are you selling it because it's super broken, you just don't want to fix it? Or are you just, you're not driving it anymore because you've got another daily driver, so you just don't need this car anymore? There's a lot of questions to ask, and hopefully the person that you get that's selling it is honest, but I feel like you answering these questions, you open up the conversation to find out more about its history, which then leads me on to another 2 important questions, which is obviously a big question: does it have any problems with it? Hopefully the person selling it will be quite honest and tell you if there's anything wrong with it, if it's not been already mentioned in the description of the car ad, sale, etc. And then also, does it have rego? Like out here in Australia, just like I've done in the East Coast, if it doesn't have registration, rego, then you've got to put it through a roadworthy in order to get it up to speed and get it working, to then get the registration for it and for it to pass and to go through. So if you do buy an unregistered car, that is what you have to do. And with this, just try and find out as much info as you can, whether you're taking it in mentally and just listening and holding it in here, or writing it down in your phone, on your notes, or on a piece of paper. That's also a good idea as well, because then you've got it for a future reference and a future time. So here's a quick story about how I bought my Toyota Echo. I was searching on Marketplace for a very long time. I ended up seeing one of these Toyota Echo cars I really liked. I messaged the seller. They gave us a ring, and then they said if it was available, it was available. I basically organised a viewing to go and have a look at it, which was basically in Victoria Park. The place was called Capital Motors WA. I then met up with one of the car sales agents on the floor, which was called Johan. He basically jumped in the car and we took it for like a test drive around Victoria Park. I did like 2 laps of it just to see the handling on the car, see what it was like, see if everything was working inside the car. The gear changes, steering wheel, the clutch, all that sort of stuff. And it felt good. It felt really good from the get-go, and the brakes as well. I definitely tested them. All the main key functions of it was wicked. After I test drove it, I looked around in the engine, looked at the wheels, looked at all of the key things that the car needs in order for it to be fully functional. And then after that, we had a bit of a conversation in the office of like what would be acceptable. I realised obviously how much they put it up for online, and I obviously wanted to get a good deal on it, so we started the negotiation in the office, and then that's when it took a bit of time to get to a price that we both agreed on, that we felt was acceptable, and I thought was acceptable for like them being looked after as a business, but me being looked after as a buyer of this car, and what was kind of good amount for that. After we agreed on this amount, we got it down on a piece of paper. We both signed what we needed to sign in terms of the contractual agreement, and then I transferred that set amount from my bank that day straight into theirs in order to confirm that purchase. That money went through. It took about literally 24 hours to go through, and then he messaged me the next morning, gave me a call up and said that the money had come through, come and collect the car, it's all yours now. That's when I went down the next morning to pick it up, super buzzing, super excited. They even put a ribbon on the top of it to say that it's been bought, etc. And yeah, it was an absolute amazing service from all of the staff down there. So I do recommend, if you're looking for a car and you're looking for a good service at the same time, then pop down there and have a look and see what they've got available. And while I'm on the topic, just a massive thank you to Johan and all the staff at Capital Motors WA for looking after me. Honestly, it was amazing to finally get sorted and get back on the road. So I appreciate your time, I appreciate your service, and thanks for sending me a car that is really, really awesome. Cheers. Forward to present day, and I've been taking this car to loads of cool places. I went to Alkimos a couple of days ago. I've also been to Hillary's Beach literally the day as I got it. That was one of the main things that I did when I first got here, when Toby, my housemate, took me out. So I really wanted to kind of replicate that feeling of being back on the road and seeing all these beautiful places that WA, the West Coast, has got to offer. And so getting this car has literally ticked off one big, huge problem in my life, which I'm super stoked and buzzing to have finally found a solution and make it happen. Next up is sorting out my career and building on that and the skills and abilities and just moving forward in management. And then the next thing after that will be getting permanent residency in this country. One thing at a time though. One thing at a time. Okay, so that brings us on to the end of another video. I just want to say a huge massive thank you for sticking on through to the end. If you've got some value again out of this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up, subscribe for more content coming soon to this channel, and we'll see you all back in the next episode. Vast love guys, take care, see you soon.